Yes.
Nope. Where do you keep it all?
Where did you buy it? Where did you buy all this stuff? Buy it. I made every one of them.
Yeah, that's cool because you get to talk about it a little bit more, and especially when the haunt people come by from like Motor City Haunt Club and stuff like that, they get more into the, how's it working, what you use, and what controller and stuff like that. But when just everyone else just comes by to check it out, it's always where do you get it? Where do you put it? All the guys always ask where.
Dedicated shed.
Yep. Well, it's scattered all throughout my house.
I bought the biggest tough shed that Home Depot's got, and it's filled to the gills, and not everything's in it.
Diablo, are you going to tell him you went live, or are you just going to let him keep going?
We're just killing time until you guys go.
Nice. My finger was so close to just getting that last little bit on the nose.
A little bit longer.
You're going to get ready to pick your nose, wasn't you?
I was.
Hey, it's the tech guys forced me to come on early, so I did it. They just didn't know it. All right, guys, welcome to Haunters Hangout. This is Season 7, Episode 11. It's going to be a great show if you want to learn how to animate your props and know everything there is. And we're going to just hand it right over. And no, we're not going to give it to Phil right away. I'll just All right, Kathy, why don't you tell them how they win the prizes tonight and how the questions come across?
Yes, I will be reading all of your questions on the Facebook page shared by Jamie tonight on the Haunters Hangout. There will be more questions than I can ask, but all it takes is one to be eligible to win an awesome prize from our sponsors. So
and a question for the group does not count. So you have to ask an individual question to each person, just so you know.
Right. So ask away.
Ask away. All right, now we're going to move over to Jamie, and she's going to show us the awesome prizes, plus the one that Steve Koshi is going to give away today, which is amazing. I might have to find out who can get a copy. I mean, I'll get a copy from Steve,
Wait, what?
Wait, can we ask questions?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, seriously, there's an extra prize for real?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Phil's got it.
Okay, good. Because nobody told me. Okay, here are the prizes that I know about. So we're going to start with this mask from Face Factory FX. Yay.
Yeah.
Next, Fright Props is giving away not one, but 3 scary dolls. Sinful Audio, one lucky winner will receive 1 free SFX library, 25% off of original sound design, and 10% off of amps or speakers.
Hey, they're actually working on my haunt sounds right now, so it's going to be awesome.
Ornaments is giving away this awesome spider ornament.
My wife would hate it, but
Scare your wife. Scare your wife to death. That's awesome.
And of course, what everybody needs, 1 gallon of fog from Froggy's Fog.
Yeah.
nice.
Someone is going to win 6 awesome badges that you can award your actors from Scare It Badges. Everyone watching tonight can get 50% off of their order from Sam Haynes if they use the code Haunters. Someone's going to win 1 of 3 realistic looking skulls from Nightmare Makers.
Nice.
XFX Makeup is giving away a $25 gift certificate. Exotic Lenses is giving away 1 free non-prescription normal size pair of lenses of your choice.
Wow. Margaret, get on the chat.
Someone is going to win this amazing mask from Missing Finger Productions. And finally, Hotwire Foam Factory is giving away a $25 gift card.
Oh, that's nice.
And since I was not told about this other awesome prize, so
Okay, all right. Well, Jamie, how do they win their prizes? Let's get that out of the way.
Didn't we just go over this? Ask your questions and
No, I
Cassie
mean, how do they claim them once they win?
claim them. Okay,
Yeah,
if
sorry.
you want one of these awesome prizes, which you're going to want, be sure that you message Diablo on Facebook before tomorrow evening. Give him your name, your address, your phone number, your credit card, your firstborn child, and he will be sure to get that to you.
Awesome. Okay, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about the next prize?
Oh, you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do it.
What?
It's my book. Okay. For those of you that haven't seen it, I will be giving away a copy of my new book, The Ultimate Guide to Animatronics. I hope it will answer most questions, but lots of pictures.
It's awesome.
Anything you want to know?
Holy crap, that's a big book.
Will that help beginners like me who know nothing?
Yes, it's more towards beginners, which is why I wrote this one. Book 2, which I'm already working on, is going to stray a little bit more into some more advanced concepts, but this is a great way to get started.
Awesome.
Very cool.
All
So
right.
if you don't, whoever wins it, if they don't contact Diablo by tomorrow, Diablo's getting it. So make
Wait,
sure.
no fair. He knows
What?
everything. Give it to me.
Awesome. We are not going to name that person.
Never got that
Okay,
message.
if you win the book, contact me because apparently
Dude, I did
Well,
not-
I'm sending it to somebody. So.
I did not get that message at all.
They put it down.
Hey,
Jeff Foster wants to know if you're going to sign that book.
I certainly can if somebody wants that.
oh, well, thanks, Steve. I'd love that. Okay, we're going to move over to our host with there's something on his shoulder.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to get the show started.
Aw.
Yeah. So I just want to start out with welcome to episode 11, guys. Can't believe it's already episode 11. We only have like what 3 or 4 episodes left.
No, one.
One. That's it.
Yeah.
No, dude.
Yeah.
So let me see.
One show left.
Apparently Phil's doing a couple all on his own.
I'm on my own, guys. We'll see you next week for the next one.
Just a one-man party. Him and his
Yeah.
little friend there.
Yeah, Jack's gonna help me out, so it's okay. But so just wanted to get the show started. So we want to welcome Eric and Scott. Why don't you guys give us a little bit where
Hello.
you're from and how you got into loving and building animatronics?
Oh, jeez. Currently, we're in Virginia Beach, but my haunt is in Grandy, North Carolina. Yeah, I've been doing Halloween stuff since I was in high school. Started with a cardboard box and a fishing line out to a ghost hidden in bushes. I'd tug on the string to pull the ghost out and found that more people were concerned about what's in the box than what was in the bushes. And that gave me the idea to redirect attention. And then it just kind of it exploded from there.
And we started with a tent, and from there we moved into the garage, making
Yeah.
mazes and walkthroughs.
And now two garages. Yeah.
Nice. How long of a travel is that? That's got to be quite a ride to get to your haunt.
From here, it's about an hour and 15.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, do you build it on site or do you build it there and take it?
It is built over the course of months in the garage. I've added dozens and dozens of hooks in the ceiling to change walls around as I need to. And we repurpose everything. So what you saw 2 years ago, you'll probably never see again. Unless they're like something special, like the cart or the very first animated prop I built was that flying crank ghost. And then I've got this robot here.
What's your robot's name?
His name happens to be Phil.
With 2 eyes.
Yeah. No, 2 L's. Yes.
2 L's.
2 L's. Phil.
Yes.
So,
So how
Jeff,
many? Go ahead.
Jeff Foster wants to talk about that skeleton behind you. You have it lit up. What is it lit up with?
I'm not sure if you mean the eyes or not, or
Well, The one right behind you with the
throat.
headphones on.
Okay. There's a set of LEDs on his chest right here that's lighting up, so you can see the jaw moving when his cloak is up, so he doesn't disappear in darkness.
I see.
And also for changing the mood in the show. Go ahead. I'll give him some audio if that's okay.
Sure.
Phil, stop being so quiet back there.
Yeah.
Secret Service guy back there in the back.
Room for the next victims. I mean guests.
Nice.
And remember, Happy Halloween.
He changed red for Happy Halloween. I don't know how well the lighting is in here.
Oh, I saw that.
See it?
That's very cool.
But I've written 4 different skits for him, and I use the lighting in his chest along with the lighting in the room. But that way you could always see his mouth moving regardless of whether he's lit up or not.
I gotcha. It's pretty cool.
And then his eyes are just 3-color LEDs. Also, I could change it with the show as needed.
And you recorded the voice yourself, or no?
No, that was recorded custom for me. This show was all custom for the ride, but previously we edited Haunted Mansion dialogue, but cut it up and retooled it to what we needed specifically. And then a seance skit that I found online.
Very cool.
Very cool. All right. We'll come back to you guys in a little bit here. So we'll move over now to Steve. Welcome, Steve. How did you get into haunting and building all your animatronics?
Well, I've always been into Halloween. It's always been my favorite holiday. And when my kids finally were older, I was able to spend some more time decorating. We actually had a big Halloween party for about 15 people, and did some very minor mock-up Halloween stuff, and the party was a big success. And my wife goes afterwards, we're cleaning up, and she goes, well, you're always on the internet. Why don't you go on the internet and see if you can find something to do for next year? Famous last words she regrets to this day, because now this is all her fault, not mine. And that's where it all started. So I am not a programmer. I am not a mechanical engineer. I am a real estate broker. And I learned how to do all of this stuff on the internet. So
right.
That's kind of how I got started. I started building stuff. I'm in Southern California, not far from Disneyland. And so that is a lot of my inspiration. I'm really big into, the animated props. And so I wanted to make everything move. And so I started trying to find out how to do that. And now it has progressed, to this stuff. So
what was your first one? What was the first animated prop you made?
First animated, I probably did a pop-up. It was either a pop-up. I know my first pneumatic one was a monster in a box that I still use. I love that prop.
Right.
But I think I did a little motor-powered, skull behind a tombstone twisty thing, with PVC and a reindeer motor, I think is how I got started. And it's the way I think most people, if you're just getting started doing that, that's where I think you should start.
Right,
it's cheap, it's easy, it makes something move, it's cool. You get a success under your belt.
Right.
Anthony Lorden has a question for you. How did you configure the eyes on that robot behind you? Can you talk a little bit about what's behind you?
Yes, the eyes have been probably the biggest addition to my animatronics the last couple of years. They are little 1-inch screens, and there's actually a great tutorial. They're not I didn't design them. I just built a bunch of them. I built, I think, like 10 pairs. In fact, my top hat that I wear to conventions has got a set of goggles in it, steampunk style, with a set of those in there running off of a battery. But Adafruit in their tutorial section has got the instructions to build them, and all the programming, everything. It's just really fine soldering. When I do those, I solder those up before I have my coffee in the morning. So it's
No
very
shaking.
fine
No
soldering.
shaking.
No shaking, no.
And with all these animatronics, I can see you now having these robots coming into a real open house, being like, "Welcome to the house," and then
Well,
oh, you thought about it. Come on.
yeah, funny you should mention that. As I've stretched, beyond not just Halloween, I do a lot of other stuff. I do steampunk conventions and Doctor Who. In fact, you can't kind of see that. This guy back here is, for the Doctor Who fans, is going to be a canine. I'm building a canine, own design on a robot chassis instead of the design they use. And I do Maker Faire and everything. So, it's not just applications for Halloween, but yeah, you could put this. I had a Maker Faire guy wants to put one as a greeter in his restaurant. I said, piece of cake. We can do that.
wow,
Nice.
very cool. All right, Steve, we'll come right back to you in a little bit here. We'll move over now to Timothy, or Tim. We'll call you. We'll call.
Hi,
you
guys.
Yeah.
I'm in
A
Clinton.
little bit about yourself. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, Clinton Township, Michigan. I started about probably a dozen years ago, just with some cheap Halloween stuff you buy at the local stores. Built a little fence, and then one year I saw something on YouTube on how to hack a screen door opening cylinder or shutting cylinder with air, and I threw the cheap, lightweight Bucky skeleton on there, and it threw it across the yard. And I said, "Yep, I'm hooked. This is it. Let's scare the shit out of little kids all the time." So that's how it started.
I used like a bicycle pump my first one.
Yeah. So, and that's it. So then from there, I have done the, I've got wiper motor props, and I've done the reindeer motor props. So that all works really good too. It's a different effect. I use a lot of pneumatics. I've got 3 or 4 pneumatics, and those are really the ones that are gonna jump out at you and get the scare effect. So, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm trying to, everyone's close in on mine, and I'm trying to get them to just get that a scare effect out of them. So I use the pneumatics for that.
Mark Callis has a question. Where do you come up with your ideas? What's your inspiration?
It's a combination. We've gone to Trans World a few times. I look at things, and I get ideas from this one and that one. And I've got a couple of local friends that do things, and we all kind of put our heads together. And, I just try to combine ideas to try to make it my original idea. So that's it. I just grab ideas that I see, take a little bit from this one, get this arm motion from that one. Then I'm always trying to, this year I've got a 5-cylinder prop that I'm working on. It's got a little bit of, just something different that I've never tried before. So I try to add a little different motions every year, increase the channels on the programs to try to make it a little more intricate.
Now, what would you say your favorite animatronic, I guess, could be? Is it with pneumatics? Is it with
I definitely like the pneumatics. I like that you can get a little bit more speed out of it, a little more scare effect out of it, because you can really come at people a little bit faster. So I prefer the pneumatics. While like Steve was saying earlier, though, it does get a little jerky. It's not as smooth as the servos and stuff. But I think with the applications I'm using, is more of a shock in the beginning, and then kind of get the extra motion afterwards. So I'm trying to come up with ways. For me, that's what I'm trying to come up with right now, is ways to smooth out the pneumatics. But I definitely like the pneumatics best.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of air if you want to run pneumatics smoothly. I know that my haunt partner that I used to have, he's like, "Stop making pneumatics, man. we don't have the air for it."
Yeah, I'm sure that's a problem for a lot of people.
Get some motors in there.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. I had to add a second electrical circuit in, a 20 amp circuit, to run a second compressor to run all my pneumatics.
Yeah, I just bought a new compressor this year. I was having problems with mine because it kept popping the breaker. It was real old. So I bought one that runs off 15 amp, and I run slave tanks. So I've got 2 extra slave tanks, and this year, because of this 5-cylinder prop I'm running, it's got a huge 2-inch bore. And so I'm going to have its own large reservoir and really control that really well because it'll take a lot of air. So
Yeah.
compressor will just run a lot, make a lot of noise. So
You have a soundproof room.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Tim. We'll come back to you here in a little bit with some pictures. So we'll come back up to the top here with Eric and Scott, and we'll start showing some pictures here. Boom. Okay. So we have, looks like a little tribute to Nightmare Before Christmas.
Hey, there's that word again.
Oh.
Yes. The archway I built out of 1/2-inch EMT. I taught myself welding, in fact, to build that archway. It's like a box girder frame. And then I had a bunch of friends come over and carve jack-o'-lanterns that we mounted up in there. And I use a holiday lighting controller to animate the arch to various songs. That sits at the end of our driveway, and the kids have to walk through the archway playing about a half-hour worth of music. Of course, classic stuff like the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, but also some pop stuff like Thriller, Somebody's Watching Me, stuff like that.
I love that.
that's very cool.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to weld this thing up? Especially with it being the first time coming from somebody who doesn't really weld it either.
Two weekends, I think. Got the bulk of the frame done in one day, but then cutting the in between pieces. There we go. The outline of the frame was done in a day, and then filling in the crisscrosses. It was kind of excruciating, but yeah, I learned a lot really quickly doing that. Thank you, YouTube.
Right.
Yes. You'll notice I'm wearing the proper safety garb, the
Yeah.
apron and long pants. Yes.
Only one glove. Only one glove. You're good though.
Oh, I do only have one glove. Whoops. Whoops. Yes.
Nate Digman would like to know, what did you use to anchor the arch since it was built?
I don't know if you go back a picture, Phil.
One more.
No, that's it right there.
Okay.
If you look on the ground, you'll see a large rectangle pointing away from the camera. That's on the left and the right. And then I used a piece of conduit for yes, exactly. A piece of conduit, temporarily tacking them at the distance I wanted, and then just built up from there. I used a slightly larger pipe on those rectangles to sit my vertical pipes inside. And so those feet come off. So when we transport it, one person on either end, it just takes two people, lifts it up out of the feet and walks it over to where it gets stored.
How heavy is this thing?
Actually, one person can lift it themselves. It's just awkward because
Yeah.
it's so wide. If it's 100 pounds, I'd be surprised.
Wow.
Oh, there's the
Oh,
That-
what's this?
Is the bridge. I graduated to building steel girder bridge for the walk-through tunnel, the finale of our haunt. You walk through a 16-foot rotating tunnel. And so I had a wooden bridge originally, but I wanted a see-through floor. So we did a steel mesh grid for the floor so you could see the tunnel underneath you as you're walking through it.
When you mean tunnel, you're talking like a vortex tunnel?
Yes.
Yeah, apparently that's copyrighted, so I call it the
okay.
rotating
Just a
tunnel you walk
rotating
through. Yeah. But yes, a vortex tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some heavy duty shit right there. Nice.
Well, it takes a lot of people crossing that at one time. I wanted to make sure it didn't go anywhere.
Who's that guy?
I have no idea. So yeah, welding was probably the most helpful skill I learned in building haunts from that point forward.
We all got to learn it that year.
Yeah. Actually, I made all my friends learn it as well.
Yeah, I learned it this year too myself.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. It's like instant gratification. Look
It
what
really
I
is.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 2 gloves on. Now we come to my dark ride cart. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin on this.
Well, why don't you explain it a little bit? So, like your dark ride cart, for those people who don't know you, what is this like a ride or something you sit on, basically?
Okay, yeah. For several years, about 10 or 11 years, I've been doing a walkthrough haunt, and I wanted to step it up a level. So I wanted to build a ride because I'm a huge fan of dark rides, especially the cheesy carnival type where props jump up, maybe with a bell or whistle to scare you in your face. And you ride in a cart that's loud and rickety as it transverses the track. But I did not want to fabricate track because I didn't want to be locked into one layout, and B, if the cart failed, we were going to pull it off and let the kids walk through the haunt anyway. So I needed to make sure there was no trip hazard. So I was like, I know, I'll make it follow a reflective line on the ground. Little did I know what I was getting into. So many obstacles to overcome, but we got a steering head built that tracks a reflective tape, and the cart just powers itself through with 24 volt. That's a mobility scooter drivetrain in there.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome, man.
And we wanted to keep the cart small because we might take it through doorways in the future. But we still wanted more than 1 or 2 people to ride. So I think Scott came up with the idea of making it like a bobsled or a log flume where you ride one in front of the other. So you could get 4 or 5 kids on that bench. And it's perfect. I mean, we've had 3 adults.
Yeah.
I'm not a small dude, and we've had like 3 of my size on there.
It can easily carry at least
Yeah.
400 pounds.
Do you have just one?
600?
Yeah.
Currently just one cart. We've just wrapped up some upgrades on it. We are starting a second cart in the coming weekends.
Kirsch and Alan would like to know, how do you protect the motors on this certain thing?
This is the cart while it's in progress. There may be pictures of it with it's got floorboards and sides coming up to the bench.
Would this be a project for beginners, or like?
No, not really.
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't do it.
Christopher Presley wanted to know, what are the best resources to learn about pneumatics for beginners?
That would be to someone else. I haven't gotten into pneumatics myself.
Oh, this isn't. See, I'm struggling a little bit here because I don't know it myself, so I apologize.
Save that one for Tim.
That's a Tim question.
I'll save it for Tim. All right.
I posted a link too in the comments on Facebook.
Yep. So, but awesome. Okay, so Eric, we'll actually come back to that because I feel like we really got to get into that, and I feel like that's a really good topic that people are really going to be interested in. So we'll give it more time in a little bit here.
Perfect.
But so we'll move over now to Steve here. We got some pictures of your haunt and your animatronics.
Okay. So, I mean, this guy behind me, these are cool, but that's not a beginner project. This is my pneumatic gravedigger. I do a lot of pneumatics. I think I have like 20 pneumatics running in my haunt. And I love this gravedigger. This was one of my first real scare props. He still is one of my best. But I think Tim has got some pictures of his build in progress. So I don't want to talk too much about the construction of him because I know Tim's going to. But he was one of my first.
Looks great.
Now this is a one-armed grave grabber that I borrowed from somebody else, and as much as I like to build original props, that really is, you know, what I love to do now. A lot of these, you know, I've gotten from other people, and this guy he runs off of a reindeer motor, which, if you don't know what a reindeer motor is, that's one of the little things, the motors that runs the reindeer for that other holiday where their head moves up and down or side to side. This uses one of those motors, and you can get multiple movements out of that one motor. So it's cheap. There's a couple really good tutorials online for this, and he's super spooky. I get more comments on this guy, I think, than just about anybody else, and it's such a simple, in comparison to some of my other animated props. I just love him. I've actually got 2 different versions of him that I run now.
So this would be a beginner project?
Yeah, this could easily be one-armed grave grabber. Look it up on YouTube. Like I said, there's like 3 or 4 versions of this now to get different movements. But, you know, it pushes a rod that moves the hand forward. And as the arm moves forward, it pulls a string, which pulls the head up. And then as it comes back down, his chin drops. It's just really spooky. It's a great prop.
Right. Hey, Jamie, where do you think you could go look for a tutorial like that? Real quick one.
I'm not sure, but I heard there's this awesome site called HauntersHangout.org.
Oh,
Pretty sure you can look there.
That's awesome.
That's
where I go.
Heidi Zunk wants to know, how do you hide all your airlines in the yard?
I have got so many electrical lines, air lines, and everything. They're just all black. I stopped mowing my lawn beginning of October. I'm in Southern California, so my lawn will still grow. One, it helps it look neat, I think, but it really helps hide a lot of the lines. And I've moved to all black. Even my pneumatic lines are all black to kind of blend in. So this is something a little different. You know, it's animated, and again, I'm close to Disneyland, so you know, I'm inspired by a lot of the stuff over there. But I've got a fountain in my backyard. So this guy sits in my fountain, and I redirect the water up through that bottle, and it comes down through his chest, and then lands right back into the fountain. So it's utilizing, you know, something I've already got. He's all painted in black light, along with all the creatures around him and the seaweed. And then there's black lights hidden up under that shelf above his head. But again, utilizing something I already had in my yard. And I do this quite a bit. I've got a guy in my jacuzzi, a fishing skeleton animated, but trying to incorporate some of the areas in my yard. I have a couple pretty big parties, and so people are in my backyard for those.
Oh, very
couple
cool.
big parties. What, you throw more than one? Look at you.
I've always done 2 parties. I do a friends and family and neighbors party, and we've had 250 people for that. And yeah, we open up the entire house, the backyard, the entire inside of the house. Every room is decorated with a different scene. It is people, you know, it's going through Disneyland, going through the Haunted Mansion, but we have the Haunted Mansion inside. We have pirates in the backyard, and the graveyard, the Halloween graveyard is up front.
Man, you would never do that shit here.
Yeah. Well, and considering I'm in California, we got really lucky. We are not doing the family party anymore. The other party is an adults only party, and we usually have 40 or 50 people for that. And alcohol is served, and that's an invite only. But this is my living room, and most of my skeletons will at least talk, if they or have 3 axis talking skulls. And my piano player, my singer there, the singer does, I think, 3 songs. The piano player is animated. He rocks back and forth, and he does 1 song.
Nice. Wish I could know how to do that shit. But I guess I can go on technical.
I have a book. You can go check out the book.
No,
Now, does-
dude, I'm getting the book. I'm not worried about that. It's like I'm just.
Oh, man.
And you may notice in the corner of some of my pictures, the red tie photography, I am very blessed that my son is a professional photographer and a social media marketing director for a big real estate company. So I've got a little bit of bonus there. He brings his drone, his boom. You know, it's nice to have a professional photographer to take pictures and document this stuff.
Now, with this skeleton sitting down, does his arms move? Do you have him on servos for that, or no?
No, all his body, the seat where he's sitting on is actually got a wiper motor up underneath in that box, and he rocks. So it looks like his arms are moving, but they're not.
Oh, nice.
Kelly Greger had a question. Do you utilize junkyards to get motors ever, or parts?
I do not, mainly because my time is more valuable than a $25 wiper motor. And a wiper motor from a junkyard, one has at the end of, maybe towards the end of its useful life, because it came in a wrecked car that's got 200,000 miles on it. You know, and you have to spend the time to dig it out, and then trying to figure out the wiring on some of those can be interesting at times. So the wiper motors are so cheap. Fright Props has got them. I think they're $25. You know, it's just not worth my time personally. And I get a brand new motor. I know it's going to work. If it doesn't work, I know Fright Props is going to send me a new one.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you even go to the when you go to convention, it's even cheaper. It's like $20 a pop.
and no
So-
shipping. And wiper motors are heavy. So
Right.
if you go to conventions, always buy your wiper motors.
Load up.
I go with a suitcase that's half. Well, I tried if I'm not teaching, but I try and always come home with wiper motors. But like for Trans World this year, I had Drew send 2 of my wiper motors directly to St. Louis. And then I had to figure out a way to keep my bags under 50 pounds so I could get them home. But
Right. Yeah, and
Now
when you get to the convention, don't wait and say, "Oh, I'll get the wiper motors tomorrow." Dude, you go
Nope.
right to the booth, get them all.
Yeah.
get them and put
They'll
them
be
in your hotel
gone.
room. You
They'll be
bet.
gone.
Fright Props is a great place to shop. Now, these 2 guys, old timers might remember the Boris Skull hack that we used to do. I actually made this hack, and these guys tell those corny. You haven't seen them around for a while, but if you search the internet, there's these corny graveyard jokes that these guys tell back and forth to each other. These guys are a big hit every year. I keep trying to get rid of them, and my wife keeps saying, no, you got to put them back. And she's pretty involved with a lot of the finish work on the haunt now, even though she was not so pleased when I got into this wholeheartedly, but she is now full-fledged. She's a crafter of her own, and she does all the costuming, does a lot of the sewing, custom costumes for a lot of the animatronics. So she says I got to keep these guys, so they're still around.
I know.
And then in the background you can see I have a coffin in my kitchen with a pneumatic pop-up vampire, and again, I know Tim's going to talk a lot more about pneumatics, but inside my house I have 3 or 4 pneumatic props, and I do not want to be running airlines through the house. My wife won't let me drill holes in the flooring to run airlines under the house.
Why not?
I'm not quite sure why.
That's weird.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I use big 10-gallon Harbor Freight air tanks. Each of the pneumatic props inside gets their own air tank. And by controlling how often they trigger and how big of pneumatic cylinders I use, I can get through a whole night off that 10 gallons of air.
What?
Yep. Just got to be very, very careful with how much air you use and how often they trigger.
Mm.
Do you go over that in your book?
I think I did. I have a chapter on pneumatics in there, so I may have gone over that. That's a little bit more advanced, but I know Tim can answer a lot of those questions on. I use 2 full air compressors, big air compressors, 1 on each side of my house, and I use at least 6 or 8 reservoirs scattered around.
How do you keep them compressors quiet? I know there was a question about that.
1 is on my side yard, so it you can kind of hear it. The other one I put in my shed, And then they have, 40 feet of airline running to the displays. So they're kind of out of the way. The one in the shed's a really nice Sears compressor. It's really quiet anyway. And again, there's so much going on in my haunt. I have probably 50 animatronics running when the whole thing is running. There is so much going on, so many different props activating and talking and music and everything. You don't hear them.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Well, thank you, Steve. Well, speaking of Tim, we'll move over to Tim to talk about some pneumatics here. So we'll show you first photo here. I know we talked to them earlier, but this guy here is your animatronic, right?
Yeah, that's the he runs on a single wiper motor with a 12-volt power supply and a little speed control to keep the side motion going. And he actually, Steve was saying he's got the reaching one uses a string to move his head, so it's kind of the same thing. So the side-to-side motion with the wiper motor, and then I've got some wires on the side of the head that kind of keeps the head centered. So as he's moving, his head kind of stays centered on the person. If you're standing in front of him, it looks like he's really watching you, but swaying back and forth. So a nice simple effect with a wiper motor and just one single wiper motor, but you're still getting 2 or 3 different motions out of it.
I had a question from Linda Marshall. How differently do you design a prop depending on the environment it will be used in, indoor, outdoor, that type of thing?
Well, all my stuff is outside. So everything I have to take into consideration, it's going to get a lot of sun. I've got masks that are getting old. That mask in that picture there has been moved on because it just gets brittle. But, it's PVC pipe. PVC pipe is, it'll last forever. I use all steel screws that you would use in decking. And some of the stuff I'll spray with a waterproof paint to keep the blood on there so the blood doesn't run off. But everything's outside for me, so I've got to use outdoor paints, waterproof the rubber or the latexes. So it's definitely something I have to consider. And some stuff doesn't last as long, so I change them out every year. I'll take a head off, change the head, change the clothes a little bit just to change it up a little bit too, so it looks a little different every year. That's that was my newest one last year. I went to four cylinders, 4 motions on that one. I've had one with 2. And so I wanted to up it a little bit. So I've got 4 different cylinders on there that controls the arm. He pops up off the seat and then it pushes it out. And so that one was, it took a little bit of work. It took me a long time to figure out how to fit the mechanism on there to lift him off the bike and then move it away from the main mechanism. He rolls down the driveway almost 5 feet. So with a scissor neck. So
I bet they think he's real, don't they?
A lot of people. It's not, and that one's not it's not really a scare prop because the sound comes on first and then it's doing a Halloween. It's a homage to the Michael Myers boy from the Rob Zombie version with the mask there. So it's playing a little bit of Halloween, vintage Halloween sound with the and then he pops up finally and scares you at the end. But it's not one of those ones that really jumps out at you because it takes 5 feet for him to get to you in a slow roll. So it gives you a little more time to really take a look at it and see what's going on. So, but that's right. My probably most advanced prop right there.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hessian Manor had a question for you. How many days do you leave these props out for?
So I have the same. About the same as Steve, like he was saying. I like to be. I have that prop price sits out in my driveway, which my wife doesn't like. She can't park right there anymore. But 3 weeks it'll be there for 3 weeks. I don't run it every day, just because of work and stuff like that. So I'll run them like Friday and Saturday nights. But all of my props stay out in my yard. First week of October, everything is set up. It's not all running. It's not all running it every night. I turn all the wiper motors on and all the lights on every night because it's less stressful. I don't have to monitor the compressor and I don't have to make sure everything's working perfect. The wiper motors just go forever and ever and ever. So that stuff's always running on every night. But on the weekends, Friday night, I go out there and turn everything on. Because people start looking forward to it.
What
So
about water?
Say that again?
Waterproofing. Christian Allen would like to know, like, what do you do when it rains?
It just gets wet. That's it. The wiper motors can get wet. They're in your car. They're getting rained on all day long. I build plastic containers to house the power supplies. I water seal that with some like silicone around the wires. Those are boxed and hidden, and then it's just the wire and the wiper motor, and then you're just running PVC pipe under there with some great foam, great stuff foam for the bodies and stuff like that, and the latex is waterproof. So, and then the pneumatics too. All the cylinders are waterproof. You're not gonna hurt anything like that. You just build houses for the electronics, and that's it.
Oh, here's one of your animatronics right here.
Yeah, that's my newest one.
So what's going on? How many
So right now I got 2 cylinders moving the head. There's one for the up and down and the side to side, 2 small 1-inch stroke cylinders. And then that's the one using the it's actually a wheel caster, like you'd put on a toolbox or something like that. There's a couple pictures of that. And then I have the one that the arms go up. And then for this one, I didn't want to animate the arms side to side because of the jerkiness. So I wanted it to be random. So I animated the torso, and the arms are just on hinges, so they swing back and forth like they're reaching out and grabbing it. It'll be random every time. There's just bungees on there that are moving them back and forth.
That's awesome. And just from the look on your face, you're just like you're looking at it like it's my baby. Like,
it is. It's right here next to me, and I look at it, and every time I see it, I'm like, I don't even know how I got it to work. I mean, but I'm actually proud of it because in my head before I started building, I had a thought in my mind of each motion and how I thought I was going to pull it off, and actually each one worked exactly in my mind is how I wanted it to work. So, I mean, other than some speed, buffering the jerkiness a little bit by putting some, foam and, the clothes and stuff on, and I think it's going to turn out pretty good. So,
right. I think Phil's got a video of the actual net mechanism, so we'll see if he can find that.
What's that one?
Yeah, I had to use two controllers for this because, I guess I could have bought a 6-channel controller, but I had a 4-channel already, so I just added a 2-channel, and then I could, Fright Props has an awesome resource on their the resource page. It tells you how to control 2 peekaboos with one motion sensor that'll activate it. So you can program one. I'll program one 2-channel just to run the head, and then the other 4-channel will run the other 3 motions with one sensor.
Speaking of prop controllers, you use just peekaboos?
I have 2 Arduinos in my yard that run my fence prop and my Casa Fear groundbreaker. Those are both Arduinos. I built them a couple years ago, and until they stop working, but I plug them in and they just work, man. And I mean, it takes a little more work because you gotta put it together, a little bit of soldering, building, connecting all the boards and stuff like that. But for a cheap prop controller, it's a really good beginner way if you have a little bit of technical ability to hook the wires up and work the program on your computer. It works really good. You can build the Arduino controller, 4-channel controller for $26. Yeah, there you go. So they work really good. So, but this year I did add for the Tricycle Kid last year, the 4-channel Peekaboo Plus, 4 channels. And then this year at Transworld, I picked up one of the Hotbots 4 channels too. So I'm going to try that out. I like to try different things. And once I find one I really like, which the Peekaboo really is.
Hey, who's listening to cat videos, man?
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
Not me. I was muted.
Yeah, Jamie was muted, so it wasn't her.
So this one here is in the picture is another. That one there is another wiper motor. The guy there holding the guts. He had a different picture. So that's why I was saying I changed the heads around. That head was on my fence. I took it off and put it over here because I replaced the head. And then that's the same one up and down. He's got a same thing, a little cable that holds his head. So as he's going down, his head's going down. And as he comes up, it's like he's looking up at you. Then he goes back to eating the guts. So simple one wiper motor, couple different axes, and you get a lot of and then if you use the wires like the like 10 gauge utility wire, you can get motion out of arms just from a little jerkiness, and it looks like they're animated also. So that's a nice beginner method of getting a little animation without actually putting a lot of, resources into it.
Tim, how many animatronics do you have in your graveyard?
In the graveyard, I've got two sides to my yard. I got graveyard and I got the zombie babies, which is my wife's side, which I say it's my wife's side because she just tells me what she wants and then I build it. So there are 3 in the graveyard that are wiper motors. Actually, you can see all 3 of them in this picture. The yellow guy in back is the swaying zombies, got like a toxic look to him. And then the guy on the tomb there in the middle, and then that guy eating the intestines. So it's 3 wiper motors, and then there are 2 pneumatics in this one, the Casa Fear and then the fence prop. The fence prop is still my favorite. That's the one that really gets a scare out of people. It's close within a couple feet of where they're walking. I build a little barrier to make sure they don't get too close to it. And that thing really comes at you fast, and it's loud, and it gets a lot of good shock out of people.
That's a great prop, and it's not super complex. And
no, it's 2 cylinders. Oh, the Casa Fear one or the fence?
The fence. The Casa Fear is a little tougher to get to.
Yeah,
run right, but the fence is cool.
Yeah, that's 2 cylinders and one. This is actually the actual valve, 1 2-position 5-way valve, and it runs 2 cylinders, 1 source of air, and the Arduino it's running more than it needs to because it's only running 1 valve and then it's running the sound. So, and that thing just it just works, man. It works great for the effect that I get.
Dude, that's awesome. I love that prop too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tim. We'll come back to you here in a little bit.
Yes, sir.
So Eric, we were talking about your ride. Oops,
Yes.
I screen shared the wrong thing. Whoops.
One show left, man. Thank God.
Before we go to the cart, with them talking about wiper motors, I want to point out this prop back here in the back, the kind of ghost skeleton, was the first prop I built originally with a wiper motor. But she looked like she had too much caffeine because the motor just went too fast. So I went to a rotisserie motor from a hardware store in the barbecue grill section. And now back to the cart. I'm using wiper motors to steer the cart. That's actually what I'm controlling on the frame to steer the wheels is a wiper motor.
So what'd you use as the motor for this to drive in the center?
The large middle motor is from a mobility scooter.
Okay.
I picked one with a straight transaxle. Well, I improved on it with a straight transaxle because a lot of mobility scooters have 2 motors because you could control them independently. But I wanted something that had as few parts to go wrong through the night as possible. So the most complicated thing in this is probably the controller that steers the cart. And I'm not even paying attention. You can see the wiper motor on the front of the cart opposite the batteries, mounted sideways. So the shaft goes down through the frame onto a set of casters, which have been bolted together so they don't pivot anymore.
Eric, do you have a video just of how that's all set up and wired up together specifically? I'd love to see one if you don't.
I have some close-up videos of it running. Our first nighttime test, we have a camera in front of it, walking backwards, watching it run. And then I've sent him a couple videos looking straight down, peeking over the front of the cart, watching it steer. But as far as wiring up, I closed it up before I ever thought to really video how I wired it up. But I can talk about it. It's If you look at the front of this picture, you'll see kind of two black tubes facing down towards the ground, and inside those tubes are infrared. They're like obstacle sensors. They just look for a reflection of the infrared.
Yeah, we'll come back to Phil because his computer crashed.
I'm sorry, we were nerding out.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I can still talk about it.
Hey, you can still talk about it.
Eric and I are talking, we'll talk on the side about it.
Okay.
Hey, here comes the train wreck.
Yeah.
Back on track, Jose.
I thought it should be me.
It's a little bit of magic, a whole lot of please, 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 and a couple of choice curse words when you find out don't work on this outside because the sun can overpower those obstacle sensors and the cart just goes off in its own direction. So,
Bob Kowal had a question for you. Any prop you wish you could remake knowing what you know now?
oh, wow. Phil, my skeleton, for his neck movements, I used two motors side by side, and I have them kind of mixed. So for him to look up and down, both motors need to move at the same time, in opposite or the same direction. And then for him to tilt his head, they have to move in opposite directions. I would rebuild that so I had one motor as a up down, and then one motor as a tilt side to side. But I do like the kind of organic, non-robotic look. When I try to make them look up or down, it's never perfectly straight up or down. There's a slight delay in one motor catching up. So he's got this kind of quirky personality because of it. But for the sake of programming, it'd be a whole lot easier if I changed it.
Oh, very cool. All right, well, we're gonna move on to Steve. Just till Phil comes back, and then we'll come back to get some videos going. Phil's trying to reboot right now.
I have a question for Steve.
Okay.
From Patricia Langston. How do we get to where we can feel like animation is not over our heads?
Start simple. Get a couple of easy ones under your belt. I've got 60 videos on my YouTube channel. I'm a big believer in, I had people to help teach me how to do this, and I try and pass that on. No secrets. So I think if you want the easiest prop ever, my werewolf prop that I have a little video on my page, it was a other holiday that uses a reindeer motor, and I just took that and dressed it up with a werewolf mask and put a flannel shirt and Levi's on it and made it into a werewolf where his head moves back and forth. That one does. It took me 10 minutes to put it all together, and it's a spooky looking, cool animated prop. So start easy, do PVC, reindeer motors, work into some of the other motors. Wiper motors are pretty easy to work with. They're 12 volt, but you just use an adapter. Not a big deal. Don't try and start with something like this. Don't start with the shiatsu massager motor either.
Nope.
No.
That will ruin anybody that starts with that. Will never build an animatronic prop again. They're the most frustrating. They're really cool when you get them to work right, but don't start with that. And then progress. Pneumatics is not hard. Servos are not hard. Soldering's not hard. I teach soldering classes all over. I teach at a lot of conventions. And in fact, I'm going to Salt Lake City next month to teach the Rocky Mountain group, do a soldering class. And soldering's a 15-minute instruction period, and I can have anybody soldering up boards like this, in 15 minutes.
Wow.
It's not scary. It's not hard. It's like so many other things, having the right equipment and 5 minutes of instruction, a little bit of practice, and you can be doing that too. And so, that's my suggestion. Start with PVC. It's cheap. It's easy to work with.
Yeah, and you can go to my channel, and there's some pretty simple props on there. And it's all just wiper motors too.
Oh, and one thing I want, it's one thing, there's two components to animatronics. Building the component is half of it, or maybe a third. The other third is getting the electronics and getting it to work right. But one thing, a lot of us use wiper motors, and you just turn on a prop and it runs back and forth and moves all night long. This is probably one of my favorite little $10. It's a sensor, motion sensor, PIR, passive infrared. It just plugs in between your wiper motor and your power supply. You just plug it in one-on-one, and then you have an animated prop. It's going to run off of this PIR and trigger. It'll run for a period of time, then stop and pause. $10, 15 seconds, and you've got an animated prop. No microcontrollers, and again, I love my controllers.
Oh man, that's so you just hooked that right to the
15 seconds.
Oh my god, I love that.
Of course, there's something off the shelf, and I've been building my own.
Where do you get that amazing gadget?
This is the tip that's worth watching tonight. $10.
Yes.
You have just animated all your wiper motor props.
Where do you get it?
All that you got to say.
I got this on Amazon.
No, you got to put a link up.
Miles
Amazon
banner is on. He'll put a link in Facebook. Miles, pick a link up for me, would you, please?
Right.
I see Phil's back. So
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Computer crashed. Nothing I can do. But are we still? Sorry. Are we at Eric still? I don't even know where we are.
pictures for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll go back to the original photo and then we'll move from here.
No, we're past that.
I know we are. All right.
Back to that one. We skipped that picture.
So wait, are we actually at this picture or not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Eric, what's going on here?
Let's see. We are adding a back to it. Once we decided they were going to ride front to back, like on a log flume or a bobsled. This became a tombstone, obviously, because it's Halloween. But this cart also got dedicated to a friend who passed last year. The last phone conversation I had with this friend, he heard word that I was tinkering with building a dark ride. This guy did all my video production for video effects we did within the haunt. He also edited my behind the scenes of Phil video. Anyway, the last phone conversation we had, he said, please, 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 you've got to build this cart. And he passed away not long after that. So on this tombstone, we thought it fitting to put his name on there so he can ride through the haunt on every cycle.
Very cool.
Very cool.
But yeah.
That's super early.
Oh wow, this is early. This is actually good. We were talking about showing first attempts and how they don't end up working out. If you look at the front of the cart away from my hand, you see the casters are on the corners, and I have a pair of vice grips on one of them because I was kind of testing how much force it took to steer, and I thought I would be clever and link the wheels together the way the front wheels on your car are linked together. I think it's called Ackerman steering, and use a wiper motor in place of a steering wheel. And I could not out the angles to tie the wheels together to get a consistent arc throughout the turn, depending on how tight or shallow the turn radius was. That was the biggest obstacle to overcome with this cart, was getting that steering reliable. What gave me the idea was to then copy a pallet jack. I noticed they had a pair of wheels together in the back, and that thing, the pallet jacks are super maneuverable. Okay, this is, as you can see, parts of the mobility scooter before I started gutting it. And if you look at the bottom corner, you'll see those vice grips in place. I would crouch on that on that platform and hit the throttle, which was still up on the handlebars, and use the vice grips to steer it. I wanted to see how tight of a turn circle I could
Why
do.
not?
My goal was 7 foot outside outside wheel to outside wheel, because there's one part of my garage I wanted to have a U-turn in that's just a hair over 7 feet, and I got it. So
Nice.
this is after I moved the wheels together. You can see the holes in the corner where they used to live. And
This was a stressful day.
the two black tubes on either side of the tape at the front are the sensors looking down at the tape, and they're wired up to, if you look at the wiper motor, it's called an H-bridge motor driver, I think. And one sensor hooks to one channel of the H driver or H bridge driver, and the other sensor to the other. So when it sees no line, it tells the motor not to turn left or right. Then when one of the sensors sees a reflection, it changes its polarity on the input. It either goes from low to high or high to low. I can't remember. But it tells the motor to move either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on which sensor is seeing the tape. There's no Arduino, no programming. It is good old analog electronics that doesn't rely on anything to work. It's independent. It doesn't care about anything else on the car.
Well, that whole paragraph sounded like beginners, but looking at it, no.
It's really cool, Diablo.
Right. Hey, that's why you need pictures, man. That's why you need pictures.
I may have a degree in engineering electronics that might have helped me a little bit.
Oh, Jesus. No one told us that. I got one guy that's written a book and a degree on the other guy. Come on, man.
All right. Moving on.
All right.
That's awesome.
We added a third sensor in the middle. I haven't put a tube on it yet, but this is kind of our kill switch, our safety. That third sensor looks at the tape and should always see the tape because it's between the other two. What this sensor does is holds a relay latch, which sends voltage to the drive motor. If for any reason that middle sensor no longer sees the line, it opens that relay latch and kills power to the motor. That is in case it goes too fast around a turn and can't track. If the thing goes off course, it no longer sees the line, it shuts down. We've also exploited that by putting a stop marker on the tape. So when the cart comes to where the station was, we purposely would block that sensor and it would shut the motor down. So the cart parked in the same spot every night or every cycle.
Nice.
Wow. Man.
Shit.
Step up my game. God damn.
Someone give me a big wheel and we can push it.
There we go.
I'm going to get that big wheel and then take Scott's box and put it behind it and push it.
There you go.
Nice. We tinkered with the idea of somebody manually pushing this and doing a Haunted Mansion style narration as we walk through each scene, but like put up a backboard so you couldn't see who was pushing it. There's my these were signs posted out in the line queue saying why we had Andrew on the back of the cart.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Haunt love right there.
Yep.
Yeah, he was one of my biggest supporters, encouraged me to do so much. Here is one of the turns inside the haunt. You can see there's a Cerberus prop coming out of mausoleum facade that we built. You helped me build this, right? Yeah. And that prop is built just out of foam board and dollar store skulls. But you can see the reflective line on the ground. And here you can see the cart is covered up. It's got the floorboards and the walls on the sides. So this is the finished look of the cart. and I protected the sensors with some skulls, and the lights on the sensors happen to light up the skulls red, which is an awesome side effect.
So I see you have a wheel added to the front again. Why did you end up having to do that?
Those are raised up about a half-inch above the drive wheels, so they don't actually touch the ground.
But just for rocking.
Right. If you try to step on the cart too close to the front, you'll tilt the cart to the side. And so that is just in case somebody jumps and lurches to the side, it helps keep the drive wheels planted on the ground. It's
So
just there for.
Do you change the course every year, or well, the track, I should say, every year?
Well, last year was our first year.
Really? Oh.
So again, that's why I went with reflective tape instead of building rails or track, because I want to change it up every year. My maze is always different. Every year it's different.
Hash and Manic would like to know, how long is the cart ride?
The
Minute
10 minutes?
3 minutes, including the show.
Including the pre-show. This guy here would give a little spiel about, don't touch anything, nothing will touch you, etc. From start to stop was about 2 to 2.5 minutes, depending on how fast or slow the cart ran, which is something we're addressing this year. In my latest video shows me adding a motor speed control with feedback so that it runs the same speed regardless of how many people are on the cart. But the course is currently about 70 feet long. And we're going to be able to increase ride time by slowing the cart down to a reliable speed.
Oh, man, I wish I had that.
Yeah, Eric, why is the alcohol drink on the front of the cart
That's
empty?
what I was going to say. So, and it's empty too.
It's empty.
Working on this stuff could be really stressful, as I'm sure you guys know.
Anything
to calm the
bottle
nerves.
just about empty.
I'm pretty sure
I saw that.
I'm pretty sure them two front wheels are for you.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric. We'll come back to you in a minute here.
Thank you.
Move over to Steve now. So, Steve, we have what looks to be like a bedroom.
This is actually my bedroom for the big parties.
Oh, that's cool looking.
Again, I love black light, but I had skeletons done, and I have to build this up for my parties and then tear it down so we can use the bedroom. But those are a couple of modified flying crank ghosts. I don't know if you guys remember, the old timer, here's Johnny, took the original
that's so awesome. Yeah.
That did the original flying crank ghost. And these were a couple of different styles that he had kind of come up with. And I love them. I just love them.
Didn't he take like all the string out of it and did all the props and all PVC for the crank ghost, right?
Well, the one in the corner is still on cables. The one to the left is with dowels. And they are just really spooky looking. I just love the look of these.
Yeah.
But those were a couple of his. And again, this is another black light controlled. This room is run by itself with its own audio track and everything. And one thing, I know we're doing animatronics, but I love projections. I actually have a set of the 3 guys from Haunted Mansion with the projection. And so every other year or so, I'll run them out in my graveyard. I have probably 7 or 8 projectors running in my haunt. This is one of them. I run Singing Pumpkins right at the driveway for the little kids that are too scared to go to the door, so that they still get to see something. And so I love my projections as well.
I think the next we have a video, I believe, right? Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now, I love 3-axis skulls. I use the Monster Guts 3-axis skull, and unfortunately, we don't have audio. But he's got a really cool track. And I'm a big fan of having all my skeletons either talk or have full 3-axis. And when I got into this, it was pretty complicated to get this programmed. I started doing it, and it took expensive software and a lot of work, a lot of time. And I was actually being taught by somebody how to do it. And I said, well, what are you trying to do when you make a move? And they said, well, I'm just trying to make a move. I don't care what he does. And I said, well, if that's the case, why don't we just program into the microcontroller random movement and be done with it? And it's like, well, I don't know. Nobody's ever done that. So I did that. I started producing my own boards, and I got some help. And then a good friend of mine from one of the Make and Take groups, Steve from Haunt Hackers, has actually taken my boards and made them super easy. I used to have to go in and go into an audio track and program all the mouth movements. And he has come up with a little board. This is just to make it talk. And it takes like 5 minutes to make a talking skeleton, to actually do the programming. And it walks you through all the instructions. Anybody can make a talking skeleton now. Anybody.
Oh.
It is a piece of cake. You do have to solder it because he just sells the board, but he provides all the programming, everything, and you just push buttons and he walks you through with audio prompts how to go about setting your servos and do everything. It is 5 minutes. I got a video on my site on how to do this, and doing a 3-axis, he does the same thing, and it takes 6 minutes because you have to program the stops for the servos. I mean, it is so easy. There's no excuse not to have at least a talking skull. It's one servo, this board, less than $100, and you can have your own talking skeleton or character. So
there you go.
Does that board respond to audio, or do you program the mouth movements?
Don't have to program. And I still personally use my personal boards and program the audio, but it takes me about an hour every couple minutes of audio to program this in. This actually has got, it's not a color organ. I'm not going to go into the technical details, but you put it in with an SD card and it automatically samples that and determines how to run your jaw. No more going into Audacity and programming that.
Wow.
Again, you're not doing anything with your audio. All you're doing really is setting your limits of your servo for the mouth open and closed, picking your trigger and a few other things.
How does that work?
5 minutes.
How would that work if you've got music along with your track? The one reason I choose to program him manually is because I run tracks with sound effects. Also, like holding on a vowel, like going, rather than wanting his mouth open, I want it kind of pulling close as he's doing that.
Well, this is pretty close to get it really keyed in. I still go, and that's why I do it manually, but I know how to do it and I'm comfortable and I don't mind spending the time, and I'm a perfectionist. And I put my videos up on Facebook. Remember, for the props on a Halloween haunt, none of your patrons are going to notice it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
What we do and the detail we go into on our props is for the YouTube videos, and all our haunt buddies are going to see this and critique the shit out of it.
It's often disappointing to pour yourself into a prop for 3 months and everyone's like, wow, did you see that? Insert the last minute addition here.
Right.
So yeah,
you have to have a bit of a thick skin if you're going to put it up on YouTube, but I hope everybody puts it up. That's how you learn. I know I went through and built this really cool prop, and I thought it was really cool. It was my eel and it's pneumatic, and somebody came up and said, well, why didn't you do it this way? It's like, because I did it this way, and it sat with me for about 2 weeks, and then I went and ripped the whole damn thing apart and built it the way he suggested it. Now it's even better, but
nice.
You have to have a little bit of thick skin. And again,
or you just get on chat with some of the tech guys, and everybody gets all drunk, and you kind of coax them into making you something.
I don't have enough touch to do that.
I've done it.
It might work. It might work with Tim, but
Yeah, it was Tim.
And I wanted to make that point. That's a great point, though. You know, you don't have to do this by yourself. Unfortunately, the forums are kind of going away because of the popularity of social media and Facebook. I think that's a big shame because so much of the work that we did and the brainstorming and the camaraderie we did was on the Haunt forums. And they're still there. Halloween Forum and Haunt Forum are still around. And I think that's every Haunter should be a member over there. Even if you're going to be on Haunters Hangout, because that's a lot of the discussions on problems happen there. And then we have a bunch of tech guys, not a bunch, a small group. We get together usually on Wednesday nights, unless Haunter Hangout moves from Thursday to Wednesdays. And that's what we do.
I am so sorry, dude. I've got so much shit from that.
Yeah. We won't talk about who got the new job on Thursdays, but we're working around it. We don't mind. But you know, we do a lot of collaborating and brainstorming and sharing of information. And
Is that something I can join?
Absolutely. Anybody's welcome. It's Wednesday night. Send me a PM, and I'll send you the link. You know, we do that. We'll start again regular after Haunters Hangout is over next week. So
nice.
But
well, thank
it's so important to collaborate.
It is. I agree with that 100%. I've learned most from talking with other haunters and, you know, working with everybody and just picking their brains. So, but okay, we'll move over now to Tim, just so we can get one more round in at the end of this. So Tim, what's going on in this prop here?
So this prop with the baby in the carriage this is the perfect example of a beginner's prop. It's got a one-way valve that just pushes this single action 6-inch stroke cylinder up, and then he falls back down with gravity. It's run off of a hacked motion sensor that you would use on the front of your garage. That YouTube has them how to hook it up and wire it on there. Put it out front. Someone walks by, triggers the valve with the cylinder, and the baby pops up, flies out at you. And then as soon as the timer from the motion sensor goes, he just slides back down. And that's very basic and very simple. One cylinder, one little valve, and then you can hack a motion sensor. Very simple. So that's a great example of a beginner prop. I wish I had a picture of what the mechanism looked in there, but there's just a couple square tube bars. They're just bolted together and just slides up, slides down. So that's a good.
So the solenoid just bleeds off by itself, just
yeah. It's got it's got a little muffler here that you just set how fast you want it to go down. So it could slam down, but you want to just let it coast down so it doesn't jolt everything too much. So.
And so you got actually some pneumatics right there that you could probably show us, don't you?
You know, I've got a huge one cylinder here. This is a double acting 8-inch stroke in the bore. The bore is what gives you the strength. How much pressure you can push through and how heavy something can be is controlled by the bore, and the stroke is just how far you're going to push it.
Right.
So,
and anybody that does pneumatics knows that's sexy.
Well, you gotta have a good stroke.
Right.
You gotta have a good bore too. But then you got little small ones. Sometimes you're not blessed with a huge cylinder. So what are you gonna do? And we've got inline regulators. So some props you want to run its own pressure, so you can run your compressor at its highest, and then each prop you can set up so its own pressure. Because when you're running huge cylinders at 1.5-inch bore, it takes a different pressure than something that's going to move this little tiny one right here. So
is there a rule of thumb or a formula as to how to choose which bore size for what you might want to move?
You know, they're one of the hi Michael, if you're watching, he led me on to actually Bright Props has a great resource on McAllister's.com. And it'll tell you on there how much weight a certain bore cylinder will push. So
I did not know that.
Yes. So I really had to do it with this the newest one I'm building, because you guys saw the arm motion before and the head motion, but that starts down here. It has to go up. So and the top of that thing, there's a lot of metal and steel, and those cylinders get heavy. It's pretty heavy, so I really had to make sure I had a cylinder that was going to push it up without tearing everything up or not using too much pressure.
Right.
So
you got something hooked up right there?
Yeah, it's right. It's the whole thing's right here next to me, actually.
You got some air to it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can get the camera. Hold on.
I saw you kept looking at it, so I'm like,
yeah, it's right next.
Well, I'm thinking he's got it right there in the room.
Yep, I've got it. Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, let me see if I can put the camera back. Oh, that's terrible.
Hold still.
Hey, I love the Haunters Hangout
Hey,
shirt.
nice shirt.
There you go.
Like that? There you go, baby.
I didn't get mine yet.
Yeah, so it's all let's see, I got the I slowed it down some because of the couple people. It's one of those things too. People complain, like Steve was saying. Someone's like, "Oh, why'd you do it like that?" So everyone talks about how high the head is. It's too high for the shoulders. It's like, hey, it's a mock-up, dude. Give me a break. I'm just showing you guys.
Oh no, they didn't.
Oh yeah, it's like, you know,
People are awful. Yes,
they are. I don't have the main cylinder that gets them standing up, hooked up, because
Dude, I love how you use a wheel caster to pivot the neck. That's awesome.
you know, you got to work with. You know, I'll say I'm a budget haunter.
That's home haunt 101 right there.
It is. It's a home haunt. I'm not charging anybody any donations. I'm not asking for donations. I can't recoup $500 to build a pneumatic prop. So I've got to, when you're talking about all the, these clevises at the end and the brackets at the end of these and these rod ends, I make them out of angle iron, drilling holes, and just 1/4-inch bolts. I don't buy any of that stuff. I'll buy a 4-foot section of angle iron for $3 and make 100 brackets out of it.
Right. I do the same thing, but it does not look that pretty. I mean, you held that shit up. It looked like you bought it. No, I don't mind.
When you cover it up with foam and clothes, no one can see what's under there. So that's the good thing. So, but
Tim, so we got some videos here, I think, that we're gonna show. This one is what your.
That's my fence prop. That was the initial test with the guy. How I was going to get the guy to move. That's working on 2-inch stroke, 1.5-inch bore cylinders off of this one valve and my Arduino. And just a simple, there's a couple hinges down in the bottom corners, and just the line just splits off to both cylinders because you want both cylinders to act the same thing, the same way. Because
I may have to steal that design. I mean, it might inspire a prop.
Yeah. And then here is the Casa Fear, which Steve was right. This does take a little bit of figuring out the angles on those arms and getting everything to come up. But I'm telling you, man, that is one of the best. And dozens of people have used it, and to great effect. My friend Paul Martin did one on crutches. The guy is on crutches, and the crutches come forward, and then the guy's up off the crutches, and he's moving his head and everything. Right. And so there's so many applications. Jeffrey built one that's in a drum that the guy's like out of a toxic drum. So there's so many applications that you can use it. And but the effect is great. And then you put it in front of a tombstone, you dress it up, and the head flops around. It's a great effect. 2 cylinders, 2 valves there, and that one's running off of an Arduino that runs on a loop.
And just for the people that don't know, and when they're saying Casa Fear, that's a YouTube channel that a guy did a step-by-step and how to do it. I mean, like all the YouTubers know exactly, and we're talking like everybody should know that.
Yeah.
But
the old timers,
like the old school YouTubers all know everybody. So when they say Casa Fear, that means if you go look it up on YouTube, there will be a step-by-step how to make that very prop. So
it's not hard to do, but you got to mess with the angles of the boards to get it so that it comes up right. But
and one piece of advice: do not assemble that permanently with drywall screws.
Nope.
Use bolts and nuts.
Yep.
It's spectacular with drywall screws once. When it decides to fail.
Yep.
No, you use the drywall screws to get it where you want it to be.
And then you change it out.
And then you put the bolts in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you, Tim. We'll
Yes,
move
sir.
over now to do our last little round here. And Eric will show what looks like the back of your ride here.
Yes.
What's going on with this?
Near the top. Whoops, I lost the picture. One moment. Near the top, well, actually at the very top was my old go and stop buttons. I've replaced those with lighted, bigger buttons now, so we could see them in the dark. The red pod was the top of the handlebars of the mobility scooter. Again, that's been replaced with the new speed controller board. The cylinder in the middle is a strobe light. That is tied into the middle sensor. So if it's off track, this thing will strobe so that our actors can tell that it's no longer on track. So come and take a look at what's
good
going
idea.
on.
And he took
Good
like all
idea.
the safety rules of a real
I
roller
know.
coaster.
Oh, I am paranoid of somebody getting hurt in my
Right.
haunt, and then
Yeah, you gotta
expecting
be.
them to walk through a rotating tunnel. I mean, you can't be too careful. And then the rest of it down below are the guts of the mobility scooter. Again, all of that is gone except for that brown box at the bottom, which is a battery charger.
Where'd you get the scooter from? Was that like you found that at a rummage or
Somebody
you bought
gave it to me. No, somebody gave it to me. Asked if I wanted to take it apart, and I was like, "Duh." So
Nice.
this is what became of it.
Well, hey, do we got video of the scooter in action?
I was just going to ask. Please have a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should.
All right.
All right. We gotta hold on. Let me keep going here. See what we got here.
How many pictures do we have to go through here, Phil? 160.
There's like 100. I limited it down to like 60.
Now that's not Phil's fault when you get like 100 pics.
Well, I thought maybe too much was better.
I
Than
love the
not
way you
enough.
decorated
Okay,
the front of that
here we
area.
go. I got a video now. Here we go.
All right.
This
Let's go. Let's
was
do this.
the outside test after we put carpeting on the bench. It's just running autonomously. There's no remote control. There's a remote control to turn it on and off.
No
but
shit.
That's amazing.
As far as steering, it's just looking at the line. You can see the wear marks in my driveway for how many times we tested this.
Dude, that is so awesome. Hey, look at you looking. You're sitting back there like, yeah, bitch, this is
Yeah.
Look at my video. That's awesome.
Oh, I'd hope this had come out better. This is laying down on the top of the cart, looking down over the front of it, so you can see the steering as it reacts. And those windshield wiper motors can move pretty fast when they need to. And then there, you saw the black
that's where it
card.
stopped, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And I know
here's
Cart's
the video
badass,
of it.
but you wanted to after this video, you wanted to talk to us about something you got coming up new too.
Yes, I do. I like this video because it shows the skulls in front of the sensor.
I know, it does
like there's
look
some
cool.
critter underneath snooping around for food or something.
Super cool.
That is awesome. I'm so jealous.
That's so. Oh, that's cool. Oh,
Okay,
here's.
oh, perfect. A better lit version of, and you can see my lines are jagged, but the ride overall is pretty smooth because all of the shimmy is taken up in the steering mechanism rather than moving the cart left and right.
Maybe you don't want to answer this, but how many issues have you run into when running during haunt season?
We had one issue.
Really, that's it?
It was the end of the night, and it was a group of friends, so it wasn't even trick-or-treaters. We didn't estimate how much weight was on the cart properly, so we had it set slightly too low, and it came to a spot where my garage floor changed elevation, and it didn't have enough power to make it through the exit doors, and his little boy started bawling. because the
Aw.
headlight scare went off and
You
then
thought he
the
was
cart
strapped.
stopped. Yes.
Oh,
Oh man, that did not come out well at all. This
Nah,
is
I
where
think it might get bigger when it plays. Yeah, there you go.
this is where I was running backwards, showing the different scenes. Had an electric chair guy who burst into flames. Then I come backwards to a video wall. As they come around a corner, this door opens and there's a girl screaming, "What are you doing here? Get out. He's coming for me." She turns back and a dude with a machete swipes at her. And just as he closes the door, you're passing the screen. And so this is going backwards. So now this is the first scene you would come to. As you come through the door, it triggers this Cerberus prop to wake up and start breathing fire.
Nice.
Very cool. Man, I'm so jealous. I love that cart.
That is crazy.
This is showing the doors, the entry and exit doors to our station coming through. I thought there was going to be audio, so now it's a point of view. You would sit and watch the skeleton, and you can see the set lighting changes depending on what he's saying. So he's going to say, "We hope you enjoy being derailed," and it shows up, lights up the derailed. And the name is going to change, but we called it Derailed because we took the rails away from a dark ride. So
I like the name.
trackless.
I like the name.
Derailed.
yeah.
Thank you.
I like it too.
I'd keep
That
it.
swinging arm was controlled by a servo connected to the skeleton. I just ran an extension cable up there. So when he says you wouldn't want to lose a limb, it drops that arm in front of everyone and then pulls it up out of the way as you dispatch.
Oh, wow.
So what made the ride start?
Somebody
Did you have
could
to give it
either
like a little nudge?
no, someone could either press the this he's showing the start
Okay.
and stop button from the that's the skeleton, but on the back of the cart you could push the green button to start it, or I wired up remote key fobs so every actor had a key fob for an emergency stop. If they saw someone touching props or
Yeah.
standing up, hit the
Gotcha.
stop button. Anyone could stop
Jesus,
it.
man, you thought of everything.
Surprisingly, we
Oh
never
my
had to use
I
it
know
once.
it's like a Disney ride. All right, hey, let's see it.
Let's see it. Oh,
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I am working on a fog chiller that does not use ice to cool down the fog. It just uses plain water. I've got it set up behind me. Give me a moment. Let's see. Oh man, I got to bring my own video up. Sorry. Oh, the picture that he just brought up is a long exposure of my tunnel because it just doesn't photo well. So this green bucket, I have the fog running through without it turned on. So the fog is going to come through and you can see it acts like fog. It comes out and it starts to rise. So he's turning on a fan to clear it off. So let me turn this on. And let's see.
And there's
Okay,
no
sure.
ice in this at all.
There's no ice. So I'd run the fog through to show you there's no ice. It came out hot and started to rise. And so now it's probably been on long. My fog machine just went into cool down. So you can see some of the residual fog is coming out of it. Of course it went into cool down now. So,
Never fails. Never fails.
never fail. Well, I know, Phil, you can't see it on video, but his eyes
Damn
are
it, Phil. Always
blue
ruin
and
everything.
He's rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. of
He's so
course.
disgusted right now.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a fancy fog machine right there either.
No, this is a like a $20 department store fog machine. Okay, there we go. We've got
That's really the key.
fog. So now, oh no, turn the fan off.
I did.
Oh, okay. So sorry, the air is still settling around, but as you can see, it comes out and it doesn't float away.
Falls
So
right down.
I'm going to do a whole bunch of it, stop it,
Eric's going to disappear.
Wow, it's just going straight
Nice.
down.
Wow.
Where did Phil go? I don't know where he went.
Yes.
Oh
And so this is just ordinary tap water, and something special I'm working on. I want to make it a smaller box because right now it's this huge green bin. I'd like to make it down about the size of like a lunch cooler. And my goal was
Look at it, just drops right to the ground. Like,
Straight down.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
to not
So
use
how
up.
long will it last? Do you have to like add more water later, or does it last all night like that?
That's part of what I'm working on. I've got 2 reservoirs in here that it's continually cycling the water. So the part that needs to be at the right level stays at the right level. So I could have a huge tank of water circulate into this as needed and then back out if I run out. But yeah, here we go. It's been plugged in for a few minutes and nice, thick, dense fog.
wow.
That's crazy.
Down.
That's awesome.
I'm all in. Sign me up.
Start a Kickstarter.
I
There you
should.
go, baby.
I really should.
Yeah, I'm all in.
So yeah, that's my secret weapon for the future. Because I would love the cart to be able to be floating through a scene.
Oh yeah, that would, so will it still see the reflective tape though?
Surprisingly, yes. We've done some
cool.
tests. It takes a lot to block
Not to
those
see it.
sensors. And we found if we drop those tubes closer to the ground, it gives us more visibility in fog.
So you say you live in Detroit then?
Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, but
Closer to me.
man,
I'll be down next week.
I wish you guys were
Dude, you live in
close by so
Detroit,
we
man.
could-
We can make some shit happen, bro. Come
Yeah.
on.
Do it.
Come on.
I mean, it
I'm
would
only
be
2 states to the south. I'm just saying.
awesome. It'd be awesome to collaborate with other people.
Well, thank you, Eric. Well, man, that kind of blew us all away, I feel like. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. We'll move over now to Steve here to finish off some of your photos. All right. What do we got here, Steve?
Okay. One of the things that I've kind of gotten into is using RC stuff. This happens to be a spider that I use out in my front yard. He's RC controlled. And I run him up and down the line as the people are waiting to come by the haunt. He's great. My biggest fear is that somebody's going to stomp on him.
Yes.
Because he really is out with the crowd, and he's got a servo under, so his head comes up and down, and he makes spider noises, whatever those are, and his eyes light up, and he's pretty damn cool. So I'm going to go pretty quick. I know we're getting close to the end here. So
Yeah, that's no problem.
okay, so this was one of the first animatronic props that I did, where I really combined pneumatics and servos. The 3-axis head is servo controlled, and the arm opening is pneumatic because I needed more torque to be able to open those arms. And I know, like I said before, there's really 2 parts to building an animatronic. Really, there's 3. It's building the mechanism, getting the electronics to work right, and then costuming is the 3rd component. Sometimes that can be a real pain. This guy was especially a pain. Getting that jacket to hang like that when he's closed, and then his arms open up, and inside the coat is filled with jewelry and stuff. This was actually a prop that was recommended, or it was a concept drawing for Pirates of the Caribbean, and never got included in the ride. And so I built it and did it. So he's got a Pirates of the Caribbean audio track style. But my wife sewed that jacket, made that jacket. She had to tear that thing apart 3 times and resew it to make it look good closed and make it look good and hang right when it opens. So, that's one of the problems. The other problem is keeping your clothing out of your mechanism. The guy behind me here, you can see all the servos and the gears. You've got to keep the clothing out of that. And I've done, Tim showed one of his props, with pool noodles, and I've used those a lot. What I have found for my body forms, to really bulk out my body forms and get the right look to them, I stole from cosplay, and I use the foam floor mats, and I make body forms for them, and that keeps the clothing out of my mechanisms and still allows them to look really good. Takes away those square edges of the shoulders and stuff you'll see on some of my older props. I'm in the process of converting them all over to those body forms.
How thick is that floor mat?
It's about
little. This one I'm holding
3/8.
Yeah, 3/8. I'd say I've got one right here.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
and it's easy to work with. Glue's really easy.
Now this is Papa Voodoo. This was one of my first really serious animatronics. I wrote for a couple articles for Nuts and Bolts magazine, and they approached me in September for an October issue about 4 years ago and said, would you write us an article on a prop? And it's like, well, I really don't have anything new, so I'll build something new. Well, this guy, from concept, from the day I agreed to build him to the day I submitted the article to Servo magazine to be in their October issue for Halloween, I think I had 41 days. And this was, we developed the puppeteering system we use for all of these props. I had people, Pat Malloy from Canada, who was on the show a few weeks ago, did the audio track from him. I had a friend in North Carolina, did all the headband, the voodoo stuff. My buddy in Tucson did the puppeteering programming. This was definitely working against a deadline, and he's still one of my favorite props. He is super cool. I think we have a video.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the next video.
Yeah, do that. This is just the beginning of him. And this was with the original programming. He's since been reprogrammed. He's even cooler now. And unfortunately, you can't hear the audio. But his routine, I use a lighting system for my graveyard. I have 16, 18 floods out there. And when this guy goes off, all of the floods in the graveyard go off. I just have some little spots. And his floods come on. So he is the center of attention with a big amp driving his audio. He's pretty impressive. So you can see it on my YouTube channel. This is Big Red. This is my animated bartender.
Great beard.
Guy from Tapper.
Well, and all of these skulls, what we do is we start with a Lindbergh skull, a plastic skull that the 3-axis mechanisms for Monster Guts go on into. And then a good friend of mine, Robert Risley here, he lives here in San Diego with me. He sculpts on top of those to give us those unique looks. And Pete, you saw before, the pirate. This guy, all the sculpting is done by him. So we don't use masks, and they come out great. They really look good.
Right. I think we got a video on this one too, don't we?
I think we have. Let me see. What do we have?
I want to talk about this though too, real quick.
Yeah, let me just go. I'll go back to that one for you, Steve. Just want to show the video quick.
This is showing before I started using the cosplay foam. See the square shoulders? I hate that look. This guy has actually been totally redone. His shoulders have been redone, and now he's got a foam body form in him. So his chest is rounded out. It's more natural looking. He looks a lot cooler. I can still build static props, by the way. See, by that light there. This guy, that uses a stepper motor that's timed to run that beer stein down the bar. Runs down a track down the bar.
What are you using in his arms, shoulders, and elbows? Is that all servo?
Just like the one that's behind me when we go back to the shot of me live. It's the exact same thing. This is Vanna. She comes with me when I travel, when I teach, Trans World or Dallas or whatever. But it shows the exact same mechanisms. Go back.
I'm going to go back to this one.
Yeah. Now, this is what Big Red started out to be. We were talking about how many pneumatic cylinders and building pneumatic cylinders. I built Big Red entirely pneumatically driven. I spent 40 hours building, machining, getting this to work, and didn't like it. Took it all apart, rebuilt, designed this servo system, And this is what happens sometimes. You build a prop, it works great in your head. It was tricky for what I wanted, and I had to totally scrap it and start over again. So I took this and I built this. Next one.
Oh, sorry.
The next one, Phil. And this is a zombie guy that now is in my graveyard, and he works great because he's very fast and jerky, and he moves great. But again, you can see partially down there the controller. I built up an entire controller just to run Big Red. Had circuits programming done. Go to the next one, Phil, if you would.
Is that a wheel caster on his left
You
shoulder?
bet. I have a wheel caster down at the bottom of the torso. I love using those. I've used them for years. That is one of the easiest things to do, is get a metal wheel caster, take the wheel off, and now you've got not only the Lazy Susan, you run a bolt through it, now you've got the other axis of movement, and it costs you $5 from Home Depot.
I swear I never saw you do that, Steve. I swear to God.
No, I'm not the first one. I learned it from
That's
somebody
awesome.
else. But see, I did that controller there, those two green boards. I designed those. Steve helped me do the programming on them. We did all of this for Big Red and totally scrapped it and started over. And I repurposed him into this prop here. And this guy uses 8 pneumatic cylinders. He's on a slide. He slides out, and then he goes through his radical routine, slides back. But again, sometimes the ideas work in your head, and then you get them out in the real world, and they just don't work the same. Don't be afraid to scrap it and start over.
And is this all in your book, in the beginner's manual?
I don't know if that's what it is. I think I put a couple references to them. Like I said, I do steampunk conventions too. Now they have me come and have a booth and present. And so this is Jarvis. For those of you who might get the reference, I'm an Ironman triathlete, long course triathlete. So my avatar is the Ironman. So of course my robot assistant had to be Jarvis. So this is Jarvis. And kind of, if you see, I modeled him a little bit after Johnny Five. If you know Short Circuit, you know, I'm going into movie references here, but you know, he's really into steampunk design, and he's pretty cool. I really like him.
Awesome. Well,
That's
thank
cool.
you, Steve. Man, you guys are blowing my mind over here. Like, here I am as an engineer, and I'm still like pondering, like, how the heck did you do that? Like,
well, a lot of it I have in my book. You know, I try and share as much of this as I can, and it's on my YouTube channel and Facebook page, and we have the chat on Wednesdays. You know, I'm grateful for all the help that I've gotten over the years from other people online, and all I want to do is be able to share the knowledge and see everybody be able to integrate it into their haunts.
Very cool. I mean, it's amazing stuff. I'd love to get into servos, but I don't know, man.
Yeah,
They're not that intimidating.
I'll have to wait and see when that book comes that I can do it.
all right. Well, we'll move over to Tim now to finish up on his photos here and some videos he has.
Yeah, that's the finished. That's the product from the fence prop. The center guy is not animated. He just stands there, kind of draws attention for you to come on in to set the sensor off. So I think there's a video of this one in like not quite in a finished product, but it gets a good effect. There's my Casa Fear groundbreaker there.
Yeah, we'll go through these
A little bit
pictures
of
quick,
fog.
and then we'll pull up your videos here. I
Okay.
think they're at the end there. So
Yeah, there's the that is actually non-chilled fog also. But yeah, that's the Casa Fear guy. He's on a loop with an Arduino. So every 1 minute he goes through his routine with the sound through some stereo speakers.
I may have something to help you with your graveyard fog.
And like I said, I'm all in. There's my same fog. There's a wiper motor panning zombie in there. Simple 12-volt wiper motor prop. Very easy. That's an old one. That's the old one. That's old. nothing animated there. And then the first one there in the front's just another wiper motor guy, just kind of swaying back and forth. That was probably second or third animated prop I did. Easy with a like I said, $25 Fright Props wiper motor and a 12-volt power supply.
More static, I'm guessing.
Yeah, more. Yeah.
Okay, I think now we have the videos here.
Yeah, that's the video of the.
There's the neck.
Yep, there's the caster right there. So
Nice.
two 1-inch cylinders, one for the up and head forward and back, and then the other one side to side. It's on a little mock-up there on the device there, but that's actually one of these cylinders here. It's just 1-inch cylinder, I think 9/16 bore, and that's giving me the whole head motion there. Obviously, some of that gets cut away. It's just a mock-up right now, but
yeah, the neck's not that long. Tell everybody.
No, the neck is not that long. It's not going to be a stretched neck. Don't worry, it'll be finished with the same foam Steve was talking about to finish the shoulders and stuff off. So, and that's how I use the angle iron up there to make my my brackets, drill everything, and craft it all out of either scraps I get from the steel place I go to, or Home Depot for brackets and stuff like that. Like you buy those clevises and they're $6 each, or I can buy a pack of those things for $1, and so for me it works great. So, and then I also taught myself to weld this year too. So just like Eric,
Awesome.
that really changed the game for me. The base for this prop is all welded, and I'm telling you, man, there's nothing like it. I mean, and then I just went and bought at Harbor Freight that $100, 120 amp flux welder, and I'm telling you, man, I'm telling you, for $100 you cannot beat it. It changes everything. It's a game changer. Yeah, here's the little fella. One of his first test runs with my friend Paul back there helping out.
I might have to go to the video links here because I think it zoomed in too much when I tried to convert it. All right, let me back out of this and go to.
There's a couple pictures of that mechanism in there too with the scissor prop. Like I said, that thing comes out around. I think it covers over 4 feet from the mechanism being closed to the distance it travels. I built a lot of those scissor arms to get that puppy out there.
All right, let me see what I can get up here.
And that uses yeah, there we go. There's the fence prop, one of the initial test phases there.
Oh, it's gonna do something. So here's your fence prop. Yep,
that's it. Got the 3 guys, and the guys aren't animated other than that they hold on to the fence. So it adds animation just by them holding on and then bending with the fence, and it's just the fence moves forward, which there it goes.
Free movement.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
2 cylinders moving that whole thing, and those guys are just holding on for their lives. So the one guy's just the arms move, and then the other guy bends at the waist, so he's coming at you too. So
you probably got what do you got, like PVC with the oversized like 1 inch and 3/4 on the inside, but pivots forward.
Yep. The outside bars are 2-inch, maybe 2.5-inch PVC, and then there is some supporting steel in there to hold everything together so it doesn't twist. And the center bars are wood, and actually the whole fence in my yard breaks down and stores inside of a 55-gallon drum. Not that portion, but the main fence. So yeah, all PVC and wood. You can kind of see there.
I think we showed this one already, right?
Yeah. So that's got the brackets in the corners to hold it together so it doesn't fly apart.
Full Donald Duck there.
Yeah. So there he is.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's your clown guy. Let's restart him.
So he's rolling out. Audio's playing. He pops up at you, and then trying to kill you there.
No,
so
that is awesome.
That's 2 cylinders on the arm, shoulder up, arm out, and then one to sit him up and down, and then one to pull it back. So
very cool.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
I
like how you roll out
right here, right, Tim?
Say that again.
You have a scissor prop behind that.
Yes,
it's a scissor mechanism.
Yeah,
you can't see.
Yes, there's there might be a couple of pics I added of just the actual mechanism before I after I painted it up and everything before I attached it to it. And yeah, one scissor prop, and then there's actually a small 4-bar, which it's a little bit more advanced pneumatic mechanism, but it's a small 4-bar that lifts him up off of the seat, and that's secured to the back of the tricycle.
Got it.
Yeah. And then it uses a Peekaboo 4-channel Peekaboo Plus with the motion sensor.
So here's a Casa Fear one right here, right?
Yep, that's a Casa Fear guy. It's 2.5-inch stroke cylinders, and then a bunch of door hinges and some 2x4s, 2 valves. Yeah.
Yeah, and the tutorial's really good about how to cut those different boards and get your angles right.
Yep, they're very specific on the angles and where to place the bolts and everything to get a natural motion out of them. Actually, I hated them at first because it was so loud. So until I put clothes on them and slowed them down a little bit, it actually, I actually, like Steve said, I was ready to scrap it. I was ready to take it apart and just use the parts for something else. But you gotta be patient sometimes. So that's it. You gotta try your hand at it. Try a simple pop up with the pneumatics, 1 cylinder,
You never
1 valve.
turn back. Never turn back.
That's it. You won't, because once you get that great effect and someone really appreciates it and you scare the crap out of somebody with it, you're like, oh, that's it. I got to keep going.
I want to try it. Still intimidating, but
you know what? You can go on YouTube. Lots of great videos. Fright Props has a great support page that tells you like the basic components you'll need. The compressor. Obviously, you need air. You need a cylinder. You need a valve. You need something to trigger it. But it's not as complicated as it seems, because if it was, honestly, I wouldn't be doing it. So
none of us would.
And there's some good sites out there too, ain't there, Jamie?
Yeah, couple.
You got one that you can go to for sure?
Well, let me think about it. I think HauntersHangout.org would be a good place to start.
There you go.
Plug.
Hey, a lot of tutorials up in there.
Yeah, I think one of my
over 1,000, I believe.
Hey, I think HauntersHangout.org has like the most video tutorials out there. So
over 1,000 exactly.
You might want to check it out.
Yeah, you all need to check it out. Get on it. But well, it's that time of the night now where we gotta end the next episode of Haunters Hangout. But I wanted to thank.
I forgot.
But I wanted to say thank you to all of our guests coming on tonight. Yeah, I feel bad for Kathy. She couldn't even get any questions in tonight, just because we were just going crazy with all these animatronic talks. So I'm sure there are plenty of questions for you guys to go back and answer. But definitely appreciate you guys. I can't believe it's only one episode left. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jamie now to give away some prizes.
Okay, and Apparently, somebody is torturing me tonight because I swear these names. I am so sorry. These are hard names tonight. Okay, so if I butcher your name, please remember I'm giving you free stuff. So, there's that. Okay, so first, we're giving away this mask from Face Factory FX, and the winner is Joe Klein. The winner of the 3 scary dolls from Fright Props is Kathy King Goodwin. The winner for Sinful Audio is Ezekiel Bradshaw. I hope that's right.
Sounds right.
They make cool stuff.
Sounds good.
The Hornament Spider Ornament goes to Nikki Spoon, SPOH10. Ah. 1 gallon of fog from Froggy's Fog goes to Michael D'Amelio.
Oh, that's the man there. Helped me out a ton.
The badges from Scarlet Badges goes to Darren Talmadge. Don't forget, everybody watching tonight gets 50% off of Sam Haines if you use the code Haunters.
Yeah, I mean, and the stuff's only like $1, so 50% is like 50 cents. So come
Yeah,
on, guys.
so you want to do that.
Get in there. Get in there.
And his stuff is awesome,
Hey,
too.
don't be intimidated. It's cheap.
Okay, the skull from Nightmare Makers goes to Christy Lynn Farrell. The $25 gift card from XFX Makeup goes to Kelly Greger. The pair of contacts from Exotic Lenses goes to Eric Rudd. R-U-D-D. Rudd.
Awesome.
All right, the mask from Missing Fingers Production goes to Dmitry Slabosky. Good Lord. Dimitri, I apologize. I'm giving you a mask,
There can
man.
only be one.
There can only be one.
All right, the $25 gift card to Hotwire Foam Factory goes to Patricia Langston.
Hey, Patricia.
All right, and Steve's awesome book, The Ultimate Guide to Do-It-Yourself Animatronics, goes to Diablo. No, not really. It goes to David Gentry. David, make sure you get the book, man.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Right,
David,
right,
if you don't do it, Diablo's keeping it. So if you want that
I
autograph,
am.
let me know.
Hey, I'm not going to remind you either.
No, he's not.
I will not. Hey, just remember, you guys, you have until the end of tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern, to collect your prizes, or you do not get them. Especially Steve's book. You will not get that shit. I'm not reminded you.
Why does the email keep getting returned?
No. Well, we want to thank you guys for coming on Haunters Hangout. You guys are amazing prop makers.
Thank you.
I mean, we've learned
Thanks
a
for
lot.
having us.
Hey, please go back in the questions and answer all the stuff, and definitely answer all the links that we've been talking to, wanting to know about. And Eric, definitely tell us how you made the fog chiller and
For a price, maybe.
right. So, and we want to thank Kathy and Jamie and Phil for all the help they've done all this year. We got one. Give it to them.
Yeah.
We got one show left. That's going to be the MHC. Win your free passes to get into the show, all kinds of stuff. So don't miss out on that. And we want to thank you guys, and I want to thank everybody that ordered the Haunters Hangout shirts for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. You guys are awesome. Thank you, and we're out of here. Thank you.